All right, welcome in. Afternoon update here on WagerTalk TV, NBA style, as we've got an absolutely loaded card here tonight. Who's in, who's out, what are the big market moves? I mean, we've got you covered here on everything. We'll throw a couple of best bets out there. We'll answer any questions you may have as we went from 4 pretty good games last night to about 10 really crappy games here tonight. But we're going to find some edges, damn it. And speaking of crap, Bryan Power in the house here today. Always a pleasure to see him, BP. Always good to see you. That's a lie. Double R1L, Steve Merrill, also in the house, ready to roll here. Gentlemen, welcome in. First and foremost, we got screwed yesterday. Once again, and I guess this is a word of caution, BP. Anybody that took the points like we did on the show yesterday with Miami, thinking Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo would have been on the court at the same time. Well, guess what? He came down with syphilis or something. I don't know what it was, but the bottom line is last minute he's not in, and that changes everything there. So I guess this time of year, probably pretty good idea to exercise some caution here.
Yeah, especially if you have syphilis, I guess. I didn't get that on the injury report, Joe. Wow, that was news to me. I thought it was the old trick knee or something like that. But no, Joe, great to be here. We've got some great, I think there's some good games here on the Wednesday slate to talk about. Happy to be here as always. I had a no-sweat winner last night in the association with Dallas. It was close for half. Then they exploded in the second half. No sweat, 36-point winner there late night on the West Coast. So nice return after I didn't have any NBA for a while. Ready to talk about this slate now.
Oh, all right. Well, we want to send a big shout out to those joining us here in the chat rooms live today. It is our NBA afternoon update here on WagerTalk TV. Give us a thumbs up. All Life in Vegas there. We got JP in the house as well as Anthony Thornhill, Have, Big Daddy, and a shout out to Bud as well as Jeff and Paparazzi Picks over on Instagram, guys. Drop your questions, of course, about some of the games here tonight. There's a ton of them, but Merrill, best advice you could give this time of year here as we're into the final 2 weeks. It's treacherous. A lot of double-digit favorites. A lot of teams that have already packed their bags and are awaiting either a cruise or tea time. So, be cautious is what maybe the best advice is.
Yeah, but to be honest, I think handicapping the NBA all season long is about, trying to figure out which teams are motivated, which players are sitting, which guys are in. It's just at a slightly different level now in the final month of the regular season because you have some teams that have absolutely nothing to play for. But you do have some teams that have to be careful. If they're going to make the playoffs, they don't want to tax their star players. Ralph Michaels had an interesting stat that he shared with all of us the other day, going back over the last 5-6 years or so, just blindly playing double-digit favorites in the final 10 games or so of the NBA regular season has made money. However, if you dig deeper, it's pretty much break even for home favorites. It's road favorites laying double digits that have been over 70% the last 6 years. And that kind of makes sense because if you think about it, a really bad team at home has no fans down the stretch. The odds makers still factor in a couple baskets each way for home court advantage. So if you get a double-digit road favorite, it is a complete mismatch. And the one that qualifies to New York tonight would be the New York Knicks. They opened 12.5. It's up to 13.5, though. Looks like it might hit 14. That's a 70% angle over the last 6 years.
Yeah, no, it is. Actually, some of these angles are actually pretty good here across the board in some of these spots here. And BP, some interesting games here, but we also always have those back-to-back situations and those trends. And let's all be honest here, as we'll start with Golden State and Orlando as the first game up. Kuminga still listed as questionable right now for the Golden State Warriors. Gary Harris, the only one out, I believe, here for the Orlando Magic. Now, I was a little shocked this line started moving early this morning, by the way. Opened up 5.5, I saw this morning, and then it was 4.5 and maybe even 4 at some spots. 217.5. Total is not moving at all. But certainly the tick towards Golden State was interesting, given the fact that Orlando hasn't played a game since Saturday. and you don't really have any idea. I mean, I guess Steve Kerr can't screw around, and he's not going to be sitting arresting anybody here, but it feels a little strange that this line is moving towards Golden State and not towards one of the better ATS teams at home in the NBA.
Yeah, the buyback is a little strange, Joe. Look, not only is this the second night of a back-to-back for the Warriors, and they've done okay. They're not just okay, they've actually been very good in the second night of back-to-backs this year, 9-5 straight up and against the number. But it's their third game in 4 nights and fourth game in 6 nights. You mentioned, Joe, the Magic have been sitting idle now for 3 days. They lost their last game here at home to Sacramento. This is a team that has not only been outstanding in the favorite role, as you alluded to, Joe, 23-6-1 is the exact ATS record for the Magic when laying points this year. They're also 10-3 ATS at home off a home loss. So situationally, trend-wise, I think we would all agree that this spot favors the Magic. And going back to that record as a favorite, 23-6-1 against the number, it's not like they're just laying a point or two and barely covering. When Orlando is favored this year, guys, they're winning those games by an average margin of nearly 11 points per game. Remember, Miami was shorthanded last night, as Joe alluded to. Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero, Kevin Love, Duncan Robinson were all out. Orlando's going to be mostly healthy. They've got a shot at finishing top 4 in the East, and that means, of course, home court advantage in a first-round playoff series. Golden State's not going to just roll over because they have to hold off red-hot Houston for that last play-in spot. But considering Orlando is 17-3 straight up, 16-4 ATS as a home favorite this season, tough not to lean their way in this Wednesday night matchup.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, Merrill, it feels a little trappish here, and I know some of the guys in the chat room kind of feeling the same way here. Any thoughts as to why the total? Well, we know the total's not moving because it is Orlando after all. Golden State did hold a Jimmy Butler-less Miami team to less than 100 points last night, but 5.5 to 4.5 here. What do you think the love with Golden State is?
Well, I mean, they're the bigger name team. They actually have been good on the road this year. They were a terrible road team last year. They actually have a better road record this year. They're 23-11 against the spread on the road versus 14-22 ATS at home. And also the Magic have been the best point spread team in the NBA for the past 2 years now because they remain underrated. And they do beat up on the weaker teams. In fact, before that loss against Sacramento on Saturday, they were on a 10-2 straight up run. Basically, all the wins came against bottom feeders as a favorite. Their 2 losses were against Indiana and New York in between. And then they caught a good Sacramento team. But now they've been off for 3 days, off a loss against a team that's in a really bad scheduling spot here. And Golden State has not won back-to-back games over the last 12 contests. They have not won back-to-back games since March 1st. So I think it's a good situation for Orlando. And I just think they remain an underrated team at -4.5.
Yeah, no, well, they are, and there's a bunch of folks in the chat room here seem to agree. JP says Magic all the way. A lot of people will take the Warriors simply because of name recognition. I'm with you. Listen, I hope they keep taking them all the way down to 3. Go ahead, BP.
Yeah, and Golden State, it's not that they just played a shorthanded Miami team last night. They shot the lights out as well. Klay Thompson turning in 28 points. I think the Warriors shot, 55% from the field last night? That's not going to happen because why has Orlando been so good this year, guys? We all know, I think the majority of the viewers know, the defensive end, right? This is a team that has posted, I believe, the league's second best defensive rating behind Minnesota for the per Hollinger over the course of the entire season. So the scheduling spot built in with some shooting regression for Golden State, it's a little hard for me to understand why, other than what Steve alluded to, that they're the Warriors, they're a big name team. People see them getting points. It's hard for me to understand the line move other than that.
Yeah, no, it's hard for me to understand a lot with you. Let's go move on here to the Clippers taking on the Sixers. I don't know what you're talking about. Let's talk about the Clippers here and the 76ers if we could, because the Clippers are hot ass. Can I say that? I just did. They have been absolutely horrific here. They can't stop a nosebleed recently. Philadelphia just came off, what was that, a 4-game West Coast trip. The only win they got was against this Clippers team on Sunday here. So are the Clippers showing any signs of life on the defensive end? I mean, tonight PJ Tucker, Russell Westbrook, both active. Oubre is the only one questionable for the Sixers. But my goodness, I mean, this is a tough team to lay any points with here tonight. We saw this thing open up 5.5 for the Clippers on the road. We're seeing it up to 6.5. So they are getting money there, Merrill. 218.5 is an opening total. I'm seeing 215s right now. How in the world are we laying, more than 2 buckets with a Clippers team who can't stop anybody?
Yeah, I don't want to say I called it, but I called it a few weeks ago. I said, be very careful with the Clippers. Once they got Harden into the mix after about 5 games or so in mid-December, they were the best team in the league for like 2 months. But what I call the HH factor, the Harden honeymoon, I think is starting to wear off. And he remains the most overrated superstar in sports. And he's always ended up being a cancer, not a catalyst to every team he's been on. I don't know if it's happening this fast, but the results sure make it look that way. This team is just 3-6 their last 9. And 2 of those wins were back-to-back against the Portland Trailblazers, who are one of the worst teams in the league right now. Take those 2 wins out, the Clippers are just 1-6 straight up their other 7 games, and that includes losing as a 9.5-point home favorite on Sunday against these Sixers. Now, on the surface, it is a good bounce-back spot for LA. It's a quick revenge spot, should be a focus spot, and they're off back-to-back losses. In fact, every time during this little recent slide that I mentioned going back to early March, they've come off back-to-back losses. They beat the Wizards by 25, came back and beat the Bulls on the road by a 15, and then they more recently beat the Blazers at first of 2 by 13. So they have responded after back-to-back losses, and it's a quick turnaround revenge spot. So one of the few times I'd recommend the Clippers, and I did think they were in a good spot, by the way, last week against Portland in that first game. And in my NBA video last week, I said so in the video, and they did win in covers. So I think this is one of those rare chances where maybe we get a good effort by the Clippers tonight.
What are you thinking, BP here? I mean, I don't. They're due. I mean, they've been. I don't know what the hell happened to this team after the All-Star break. Things were going swimmingly into the All-Star break. They come out and then it's just it's trash here. And it's not like they're now. Granted, Paul George and Kawhi, they missed a couple again, but for the most part, this team, they got Westbrook back. Could this be Westbrook is the key to the Clippers actually putting it together, coming off the I find that hard to believe, but something's got to change for this team.
Yeah, you talk about the defensive woes for LA, Joe. When these teams played just on Sunday, as you mentioned, the Clippers, they gave up 121 points to the Sixers, and they really should be ashamed of that because in Philadelphia, in 11 of their other 11 games in the last 12, they haven't cracked 109. So that was a really putrid defensive effort. We saw how many points they gave up to Indiana. I would concur with what you're saying that I'd be a little leery about laying this many points with LA on the road. But Steve raises several good points about the situation favoring the Clippers. So if you're like me, if you're a little leery of laying this many with the Clippers on the road, here's an alternate way to attack this game. How about playing them over their team total of 110.5? That's what I did tonight. The Clippers, for all their struggles, they average 116 points per game for the year, and they had a season low in threes against Indiana last time out and still scored 116. I would expect a higher volume of threes in this game. I think they can easily clear 111 here in this spot, a favorable situation spot. So I think if the Clippers do cover, it's going to be because of the offense, not the defense, right? Philadelphia, I know they don't score a lot, but to me, take the points out of laying the points out of the equation. Let's just hope the Clippers can get up and over 110.5, which I think they should be able to do.
Yeah, that's not a bad way to look there either here. And a big shout out to what is it, Titan CT hanging out on our live vertical feed there on YouTube Shorts. Pleasure to see you, my man. And of course, JP, Big Daddy, Have, the rest of you guys there on our YouTube stream. We appreciate it. And a shout out, of course, to Instagram as well as X and Facebook. And my God, I feel like I'm going to pass out if I keep looking at 23 more chat rooms. So let's move on here, if we can, one more time, to the hottest team in the NBA, the Houston Rockets. Ladies and gentlemen, the Rockets taking on OKC here tonight. Sengun with nothing crazy. SGA is out, right? So that was the big one that came down earlier with no SGA here. we're seeing from a 7, which I thought was a little much to begin with, down to 4.5. The total has also come crashing as well, Merrill. 230.5 to 226.5 right now. So it's not as if SGA, listen, is he a 3-point player? Is it a 3-point move? Because you and I all year long have been looking to fade moves just like this because the market overreacts. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think in general, if you just play the shorthanded teams, you've made a lot of money the last few years. And don't look now, but the Lakers went outright last night with LeBron listed as out.
Yeah.
That line was like climbing up to 9.5 or 10. So it really is a remarkable angle that just seems so counterintuitive, but just continues to win. And that's why it probably will continue to win, Joe's, because it is counterintuitive. With that said, though, SGA is one of the most important players to any team in the league. In fact, I like to look at like points on and off the court per 100 possessions. The Thunder this year are 10 points weaker when he's off the court per 100 possessions offensively, and they're about a point weaker defensively. So you're talking about almost 11 points per 100 possessions weaker. So maybe he is worth at least 3 points. In fact, according to that, he'd be worth about 7, 8, maybe 9 points in the line. And then you reference the fact that the Rockets are the hottest team in the NBA. Our producer, Robert Harris's Houston Rockets, the hottest team in the league. And you know you're good when you've gone, what is it now? 9 straight wins and 11-1 straight up the last 12, and you're 1 game above 500. That's how bad they were a couple months ago. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, when you start heating up like that, you don't overlook anybody, and you sure don't overlook a named Class A opponent like Oklahoma City. So, one of the reasons the shorthanded teams continue to cover is because they adjust the line, but it's often because the opponent overlooks them. In fact, more times than not, I think that's what it is. Just don't think that's going to be the case maybe with Houston tonight. And until the Rockets cool off, it's pretty tempting to take a team that's won 11 of their last 12 straight up, getting 4.5 against a team without their key player.
Yeah, it was a little taken back there, BP, when that news came over earlier. But the market didn't waste any time going down. But like Merrill said, it's been one of the more profitable angles over the last couple of seasons here. No SGA, they are at home. It's not a great spot for him, but how much faith do you have the Rockets to continue to roll here? Because they still got to make up some ground.
Yeah, as we talked about in the Golden State game, those two teams are battling for that last play-in spot. Here's the thing with the Rockets, their recent winning ways, guys. I look at who they've beat. I'm seeing a lot of Washingtons, Portlands, Utahs, San Antonios in there. I mean, they beat San Antonio twice. They beat Portland once, Washington twice. I mean, these are the real dregs of the league. I was willing to jump in on OKC before the SGA news, even though this is the second game of a back-to-back for the Thunder, because, Şengün was in the lineup the last time these teams, or earlier in the year when these teams played, and OKC was a 10-point favorite here at home. That was last month. And now he's out for the Rockets, and they opened as a shorter favorite. But the SGA news kind of complicates things. The second night of a back-to-back makes me worry a little about the Thunder. It was a big win they had over New Orleans, and also first home game back after 3 straight road games. So this was kind of an easy pass for me. I wasn't initially leaning towards OKC, but I don't know. It's not a great spot without their best player. I know what the situation's been. I completely agree with you. Backing these shorthanded teams has been the way to go, but this was a pass for me.
Yeah, you don't mind if I just pass you on the next game, too. Hey, Merrill, let's talk about them Lakers if we could, because let's be realistic. We sat on the show yesterday. I think it was Andy and Rob Vino, guys, and we were on the show yesterday talking to a lot of you guys in the chat room. Shout out to those of you joining us there. Pixel Central in the house here, as is Catch You Slipping in the house. We were talking to you guys yesterday, and you're like, do you really think the Lakers can win when they announced LeBron out? And the answer was, hell yes, we think they can win. That one itself moved to 2.5 points in that game. But now they'll might have LeBron back here tonight after erasing a 19-point second-half deficit. Boy, oh boy, Reeves finally shows up. LeBron still listed as questionable. Anthony Davis questionable. And for gold, well, you know what's going on with Memphis. I mean, everybody's doubtful or on vacation already. Brandon Clark is the only one that remains questionable. Vince Williams also doubtful in this one. Desmond Bane not on the list. He's back. But Memphis at home has been a pretty interesting team. And can the Lakers go on the road, second of a back-to-back, and put that kind of effort here tonight? Or is Memphis might be what we like to refer to as a barking dog tonight?
Yeah, I would guess that the public's going to probably be pretty heavy on the Lakers just because nobody wants to back Memphis. And you see one of the worst teams in the NBA getting just 4.5 points. It's like either Lakers or pass. So it is contrarian play of the day in my book. But I like this contrarian play for a couple reasons. First of all, the default injury report all season long has been Anthony Davis probable, LeBron questionable. Tonight it's Anthony Davis questionable, which basically is like doubtful in my book. And yes, LeBron didn't play yesterday, but why would they play him off the overtime game, traveling with no rest against one of the worst teams in the league? I mean, I guess you could say, well, you play him, you probably get the win. I just don't think that's the mindset of the Lakers here. So I'd be surprised if one, if not both of those guys are out. This line will probably drop even further. It opened 5.5. It's down to 4.5. We'll probably close a little bit lower, but yet this is a spot where Memphis surprisingly is a live dog. And they only have 9 guys on the injury report tonight. They're getting healthier. They had 12 or 13 when I looked last week. So, they really have nowhere to go but up. Really bad offensive team. They have not shot well at all with all these injuries. The Lakers, though, tired, road, no rest, off overtime. Sure looks like a flat defensive spot. And we have seen this total jump from 217.5 up to 223.5. So I think a bad defensive game by LA is actually good for Memphis and gives them a chance at a rare win tonight.
What are you thinking here, BP? Listen, the Lakers, they wasted enough time this year. It's not like there are no more scheduled losses for teams here as they make this trek down. It's Golden State. It's the Lakers. Everyone's trying to, jockey for position there and get themselves in. Phoenix is another issue. We'll talk about them coming up here. But what do you think? I mean, do you trust them to go on the road? LeBron, I would imagine, is going to play. I don't know if AD hurt his eyebrow or not, but there might be an issue there. What are you thinking of doing with this game?
Yeah, it would be Memphis or pass for me. Steve mentioned they're getting healthier. I believe Brandon Clark's making his debut tonight, right? Mm-hmm. His season debut. So that they are getting healthier. This is also Memphis's only home game in about a 2-week stretch. So I don't know. Is that for a team that's long since out of it? Is that some motivation? It is the dreaded spot, first home game back after 4 more on the road that we always talk about, which historically means fade. But I mean, you can't lay it with the Lakers, a team coming off a double overtime game where no one expected them to win. Right now, everyone's going to expect them to win. And we know what happens there. They gave up 145 in regulation to Indiana. Yes, Indiana plays 100 miles an hour, no defense, but still. And LeBron, it's always interesting to watch too because I've said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. When he's not on the court, this team is not good defensively. So there would be hope there for Memphis if he did not play to put up some points. I know Memphis is a very offensively challenged team. So it's dog or pass for me, as it usually is with these contrarian situations.
Yeah, well, we got another interesting game here tonight as well that we're keeping an eye on, and it's the Indiana Pacers taking on the Chicago Bulls. This one opened up as the Pacers as a road favorite, 2.5. This one is now up to 3 as they're getting a little bit of love. The total is starting to creep up here a little bit as well. Was it Naismith and McConnell questionable for the Indiana Pacers at this point? Oh, what a shock. Alex Caruso is questionable. So let's go back to you here, BP, on this one. Rick Carlisle nearly lost himself the other night when the Lakers had a 43-16 edge in free throws. They did bounce back in a nice way, but here they are on the road again against desperate Bull teams. They're 1-3 straight up, 0-4 against the number in these last 4 games, that being the Bulls. They haven't been great, quite honestly, in about a month here. So what are we doing here? Is it Pacers? You agree with the line move?
I actually don't agree with the line move. This is another one of those games where the situation is dictating the handicap. Look, this is the end of a 5-game road trip for Indiana. The Bulls, this is their 3rd straight game at home. What happened in the last one? How about a humiliating defeat to the Washington Wizards? Chicago was They closed minus 12. I think that was the biggest favorite they were in any game all season. How did they start that game? How about in a 15-0 hole? That's not what you want to do in what should be an easy win against a team like the Wizards with nothing to play for. The Bulls are trying to cement one of those last play-in spots in the Eastern Conference. I expect a motivated effort from Chicago. Interesting tidbit here, guys. This is the fourth meeting of the year between these teams. The road team is 3-0 straight up and against the spread the previous three meetings. So that would favor Indiana. Maybe that's why we're seeing a line move in their direction. But I don't know. I look at this situation. The situation screams take the points with Chicago. I know Chicago's everyone kind of views them as a subpar team, but more often than not, they're laying points at home. And Indiana's only been an away favorite 10 times all season. I know it's a short number, but I don't know. Motivationally, situationally, I'm looking at Chicago in this one.
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting because Leg Show magazine also brings up the point, Merrill, that the Pacers certainly have picked up maybe the tempo a little bit. Still not as high a scoring, except for that debacle with the Lakers the other night here. And Carlisle screaming as loud as he can. Anybody will hear him, play some damn defense, play some damn defense. They're not crawling as far as the tempo goes here, but I'm not running to the window to lay points on the road with the Indiana Pacers, but damn, is this hard to look at the Bulls and back them in this one.
Yeah, and don't forget, before Chicago went under against the Wizards 2 nights ago on Monday, Bulls had gone over 6 in a row and been playing some shady defense in some of those games. And yes, the Pacers have been a pure under team since the All-Star break. I think they were 34-23 when the break began, and they've gone 10-5 to the under in their last 15. But they were actually 10-3 to the under their first 13 until those 2 LA games, which both went over. 295 points against the Lakers, 249 against the Clippers. So I do think we could be getting in early now in that new Pacer to the over trend. Over would be the way I'd play this one. And we see the money has come in on the over. It opened 232. It's up to 235, and I would agree with that move.
Yeah, I do think maybe that's not a bad way to approach this game. Also here, nothing crazy on the injury report as far as that goes, but we do have a interesting late game in which the total seems to be moving, not a whole heck of a lot else, and that's with the Denver Nuggets taking on the Phoenix Suns here tonight, guys. Nurkic questionable, Bradley Beal, wow, shocker, questionable. Jamal Murray still listed as questionable, as is Aaron Gordon. Jokic and Porter have been ruled active. So there are some question marks here. Still 7.5, which is what it opened at. Total is increasing, 225 to 227.5. Is there any world, BP, you trust Phoenix in this spot to go into Denver and maybe get the outright win or cover? What do you think?
Certainly not an outright win. You know, it's interesting that you talk about the way the total's moving, because without Beal, with the Suns' offensive rating, I mean, when they don't have their quote-unquote big three, their offensive rating just plummets. I mean, this is an elite offensive team when they have those three guys, Beal, Booker, and Durant. But the problem is I think they've only had them for 31 games this season. And when one of them's out, they're just not an elite offensive team. Denver's been a team on a mission. They obviously want that top seed in the West for a second straight year. As a matter of fact, if Nurkic and Beal are out, the Suns' projected starting 5 in this one, guys, has a minus 7.5 net rating. That's not good when you're going into Denver. And oh, by the way, this is a revenge spot. Last time they played the Suns, they lost by 10 here at home in a game that went to overtime. Denver only scored 107 in that game. It was an uncharacteristically poor first half for the world champs at home. This is a team, Joe, I've talked about on the program. I know lots of others have as well. Denver is usually known for strong starts here at home. They're outscoring teams by about 6.5 points in the first half at home. I would expect we get a motivated Denver side here that possibly smells blood in the water, and I would play that. That's how I would play it. I would look to Denver in the first half. That way, you don't have to lay the third possession here. You only have to lay 2 possessions over 24 minutes. I think they come out strong.
Also, it should be noted, Woke Queen says Beal is out, and Titans adds in that KD is tired and smoking a lot of weed. So that's probably not a great combination, R1L here, to want to back in Denver where it grows on trees, literally. So what are you thinking about this game here, Merrill? I'm seeing some folks actually in the chat rooms thinking Denver might not be a bad call here because they have gone scorched earth. They want that number 1 seed. They're talking about wanting the number 1 seed here. So you worried about laying a point like with a number like this with them at home?
I'm never looking to fade the best team in the NBA in a focus spot, and this should be a focus spot tonight because not only are they at home, but it's also the national TV game on ESPN at 10 o'clock Eastern tonight, and they're 15-2. You know, they lost the last 3 games before the All-Star break last month. They lost. You know, we could say they were just flat going into the 1-week layoff. They came out on fire, though. They're 15-2 straight up their last 17 games. The concern, though, is Jamal Murray being questionable. He's one of the 2 best players on this team. Jokic is obviously a star, but Murray's a great player also. But then again, Beal is questionable, although they're saying out maybe. Nurkic is the other guy. If you look at the 3 most efficient 5-man lineups, you know, Brian mentioned the power 3 with Booker, Beal, and Durant. But the top 3 5-man lineups, all 3 have both Beal and Nurkic in it this season. So if both of them are questionable or don't play, the Suns are even weaker if Murray's out for the Nuggets. So too much uncertainty for me in this game, but it would be Nuggets or pass. I'm not looking to fade the best team in the NBA, the defending world champs, as it is go time 1 month before the playoffs at home on national TV.
Yeah, well, we had a poll question up on our YouTube Shorts feed. So those of you with watching on a mobile, you guys saw about whether or not you think Denver gets the number 1, or do we think OKC can make a run at this here? It just feels like, BP, since the All-Star break, it's all about Denver doing whatever they have to do to secure that and keep that same path like they did last year. And they're like openly telling you, we don't care. Like we're not slowing down. And that's interesting from a team that played a lot of basketball a year ago, but they don't care. That's the path they want to go here. So it's kind of hard to look at anybody else, even OKC, and think, yeah, they're going to catch Denver. Probably not.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised at the level of motivation from the Nuggets in the sense that when we started to see the Western Conference pecking order you take shape, you know, I would have thought that finishing number 1 would have meant far more to an OKC or a Minnesota than it did a Denver, a team that's obviously just got it done in the playoffs last year. But obviously Denver feels that being number 1 is key to running it back. So yeah, right now, I mean, it's hard to imagine the Nuggets slow down. They're more battle tested. I think we would, I don't want to speak for you guys, but we would concur in a playoff situation. We would favor Denver over a Minnesota or an OKC, particularly if they did have home court advantage in that series with the edge, with the edge and experience as well.
So I can't think of anything I would rather do less than to try to figure out who's going to win between the Wizards and the Nets. But my goodness, the market apparently doesn't have a clue either, Merrill, as this game is what? 2 and it's not moving much. The interesting part about this game is that Washington and the total have been absolutely cratering from about 226 this morning to 220 and a half. And I'm seeing 3.5s now for the Brooklyn Nets. I get why the market's moving towards the under. It feels like an under spot here. 5.5 points here. Is there still room enough to look at the under in this one?
Well, I think the reason the money's coming in the under is because not my Washington Wizards are now the hottest defensive team in the league after losing 16 straight and 21 out of 23. Don't look now, but for some random unknown reason, they've decided to win 3 straight games. So much for tanking, right? But what's been really noticeable during this 3-game win streak isn't just the fact they've won 3 games, but this is a team that's given up over 50% shooting on the season on average. And the last 3 games, they've held those opponents to 43, 42.5, and 41.5% from the field. So, I mean, if you think they've really all of a sudden become a good defensive team, then yes, that under 6-point move makes sense. I'm not a believer, and I think this might be a good spot to come back in on the over. One thing I do look to do with these meaningless teams late in the season, this final month, is when we have 2 bottom feeders that are out of the playoff contention, I always look for a reason to play the over. I believe we get kind of playoff mentality. We get not playoff mentality, street ball mentality, which is all offense, no defense. Let's pad my stats for free agency. And I think that applies here. And I do think the only reason this line has dropped 6 points is because the Wizards have played great defense the last 3 games, but I need to see more than 3 games. I think the overall, how many games have they played now? 72 games here. They were 11-58. They're now 14-58, just to put it in perspective. I'm not a believer.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. Cam Thomas listed as questionable for the Nets. I would really consider the under if he doesn't go here, BP, for Brooklyn. But do you agree with the market move to the under in this one? It's one of the bigger drops that we have seen on the board here today in the totals market.
I'm kind of with Steve in the sense that you've missed the best of the number. I feel like the under, and maybe I would come into play because I don't think you could trust the Wizards in the big picture defensively. I completely echo Steve's sentiments. This is a team that's given up over 123 points per game over the balance of the season. This is their first 3-game win streak. It's a curious 3-game win streak. You know, you look at it, you're like, what's going on here? Okay, did they catch some of these teams? I mean, they beat Toronto in one of the games. Toronto's a team that is just decimated by injuries. I mean, they're one more injury from having Prez or Carm in their starting 5, I think. I mean, it's just getting that dire for the Raptors. So, yeah, I would not trust the Wiz, their defensive, their newfound defensive prowess long-term. I think that is blip, not trend at this point. If you're going to do anything with this game, it would be come back and take the over.
Yeah, the rest of the games that are on the board here, I'll just quickly run through them. I mean, Spurs, Utah, that seems to be getting a ton of money coming in on Utah at home. Wembanyama and Keldon Johnson still questionable in that one. Markkanen is a go here tonight for Utah. Jordan Clarkson out right now for them, along with Chris Dunn there for the Utah Jazz. Utah at home has not been a very good team, but with the questions surrounding Wembanyama, although they did just win a game without him the other night, didn't they? You agree, Merrill, with this line move towards the Utah Jazz here with Markkanen, but no Jordan Clarkson?
Well, I mean, Markkanen's a key player, and he's been out for about a month or so at least, so it will be interesting to see if that's the spark that the Jazz need, because this is a team that's lost 6 straight, 9 of their last 10 straight up, and 13 of their last 15 straight up. So at some point, maybe they're going to turn the corner. By the way, they're just 2-7 ATS their last 9 while going 1-8 straight up. So, you know, what you look for in the NBA is these little 5-10 game samples where maybe something has changed. Like the Wizards, you know, they're playing great defense now. If that was 2 months ago, maybe I'd buy into it and say maybe something's changed. We'll find out. But with Utah, I think having Markkanen back in the lineup could be that catalyst here over the next couple of weeks. I'd like to take a wait-and-see approach, but would not be surprised to see Utah perform well tonight. And San Antonio coming off that 12-point dog win against Phoenix. But keep in mind, that was the second of a back-to-back. They just lost to them by 25 2 days earlier. So I think that was more of a Phoenix not showing up situation than the Spurs all of a sudden fixing something. They were just 1-6 straight up their previous 7.
Yep. We do have Utah is the Markkanen is the key to them for sure. Shout out to those on Instagram joining us. We appreciate you hanging with us. Big shout out, of course, those watching on your cell phones there on YouTube Shorts. Our live feed always looks better in vertical format when you're on your phone there. Those watching on desktops or TVs, we appreciate you guys as well. Shout out to X as well as Facebook. Go ahead, hit that like button if you could. We'd much appreciate it. We got a couple of more questions to get to, and then, of course, we'll wait for somebody to announce that they have an illness tonight. We'll watch the market absolutely bottom out on them in that. But some Nick love going on in some of the chat rooms here, BP. What did they just lay? 17, was it? 16.5, 17. They didn't have any problem, I believe, covering that one. This one is disgusting as well and continuing to go in their direction. Opened up 12.5. It's now 13.5. The total's gone up from 209 to 213 now, it looks like, here in some spots. Listen, if DiVincenzo keeps shooting threes like that, and I mean, combined, the Knicks are just happy now to chuck up threes, and whatever goes in, they're good to go. But my goodness, 13.5 on the road for the Knicks. You laying it?
I am not personally laying it. I could not endorse the Toronto Raptors, and I take some ugly dogs in no matter the sport. But the Toronto Raptors guys, I mean, it's all over. But the shouting, and you talk about, Steve mentioned the trend that actually supports laying it with the Knicks at the outset of the show. Road favorites, the double-digit road favorites this time of year. Well, here's a reason not to back Toronto. Division games this year, guys. Nobody in the league has been worse in division games than the Raptors. They're 1-12 straight up after the loss to Brooklyn the other night. Outscored only by 8.2 points per game, but keep in mind a lot of those were back when they had some semblance of enthusiasm. This team is DOA. They are unbackable. Again, Steve talked about just conceptually just how down on their luck these double-digit home dogs are. And the Raptors, my goodness, I mean, this is a team at home, lost by 34 to Sacramento recently, lost by 20 to Oklahoma City. They scored 88 in their last game against Brooklyn. They have failed to break 103 of their last 5 games, if those threes are going down for the Knicks. And, oh, by the way, they just won by 25 last time out against Detroit. Then it should be the Knicks running away here.
You're liking the Knicks. I mean, Merrill, we were laughing, I think, a couple days ago. We're like, Knicks laying 17 and the total is dropping. Like, what in the world is going on? But quite honestly, they still aren't at 100%, but I can see them winning this thing by double digits, no problem. Maybe even a first half opportunity with them to get out there and start blowing the doors off Toronto.
Yeah, Knicks really the only way to play this game. And what's interesting about it is I mentioned one of the reasons that double-digit road favorites over the last 10 games do better than home favorites is because we do get a discount. This line would be like 17 or 18 like it was against the Pistons at home. They were a 17-point favorite. But the other thing that's interesting about it is it's like Brian and I are both like it's Knicks or pass. We cannot play the Raptors. You think that seems obvious, but as I check some of the public consensus numbers, the Raptors are a little bit of a public dog tonight. So the public doesn't like to lay this type of number, especially on the road. So that's another reason why it is a discounted price, and it probably should be 16 or 17. And Toronto has just tossed the towel this season. They've lost 13 of their last 14, and they've only covered 3 of the games during that span. So not only are they losing, they're getting blown out. They have gone under, by the way, 7 straight, despite giving up over 50% shooting in half of those games. That just tells you how bad the offense must be. And the Knicks' recent winning ways have coincided with some great defense. In fact, they've held, I think it is 6 of their last 9 opponents to 40% or lower. So just don't see Toronto scoring here. Knicks are the only play. A Toronto team total under would probably make some sense as well.
So, BP, a rumor has it that you have an in with maybe some Toronto Raptor props for some players. Anything? I'm just asking. I'm just saying. Yeah. If it ain't broke, doesn't hurt to ask. Is all I'm saying there. All right. So the rest of these games are total trash here for the most part. Not a whole lot of movement, except I'm starting to see the money come back down. For the Indiana Pacers right now. Looks like some of the money coming in on the Bulls. We'll double check and see if there's anything new as far as that goes. I don't see anything new, but we're starting to see 2.5s lighten up across the board. It was 3 just a few minutes ago. And the Clippers continue to seem to be taking some money right now. Is that some of these indicators look like a 7 is very possible before it's all said and done against the Sixers, who I think, if I'm not mistaken, we still have to wait and see what the status is going on with Kelly Oubre, who is still listed as questionable, probably a game-time decision. So some opportunities there, also opportunities with BP at his page over at WagerTalk.com. BP, what are you locked and loaded with here tonight?
Yeah, we've got a big NBA. I like this NBA card a lot. I've got 4 plays tonight in the NBA coming off that big 36-point winner we had with the Mavs last night. Also in the the one-day all-access pass, I have a play in the NIT as well. So that is 5 plays locked and loaded for Wednesday. The best way to go about things right now, guys, use code POWER30. That will save you $100 off a 30-day all-access. Obviously, not just NBA tonight. We've got the Sweet 16 starting tomorrow, opening day in Major League Baseball. Any soccer, you get every play I release for the next 30 days, $100 off. We had a great start to the MLB season last year, 34-16 run the first month of the season, looking to close out the tournament strong as well. NBA, we're 58% for the season, up 37 units. WT.buzz/BP, just like it says on the screen.
Oh, outstanding stuff. Yes, also Major League Baseball on its way. It'll be here tomorrow. So will a whole lot of content for you guys daily. First Pitch is back. Make sure you guys check that out. Easiest way to do it is hit the subscribe button and get access to all of the content we have here at WagerTalk.com, including Steve Merrill, who will no doubt be dabbling in some Major League Baseball as usual. And Merrill, what else is locked and loaded at your page at WagerTalk?
3 different sports available right now on Wednesday night on my page. I've got 2 NBA best bets tonight. I made a 2-for-1 special. By the way, I'm ranked number 1 this year in the NBA on sides, 51 and 34 already this season, up over 55 units of profit. I've got 2 NBA best bets. They're each 25. I get them both for 29. It's a 2-for-1 combo. Second game for just $4 more. Baseball starts tomorrow. I've already loaded my top opening day baseball best bet, and it is half price because WagerTalk has a 50% special for opening day. So you get that baseball play in advance right now for Thursday for half price, just $12.50. And also my strongest college basketball play for the Sweet 16 goes tomorrow night on Thursday, backed by an 18-0 perfect situation. That's available also on my page. So not a bad reason to try maybe a 7-day all access for just $69 with promo code Merrill7. Normally it's $99, but get it for just $69, Merrill7. 2 R's, 1 L, Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com.
Starting to see the board light up for the Brooklyn Nets as well. Looks like they're going to hit -4 here shortly, as some of the books are already turning that number over to 4. But again, I think the consensus here is that MVP, I think we all scratched our head a little bit here with the Orlando Magic and the line move towards Golden State. I think our consensus would be that maybe don't trust Golden State here. It's kind of hard not to lay the 4.5 here with the Orlando Magic.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about at the open. The situation sort of just dictates a play on Orlando. Golden State, not just the second night of a back-to-back, third game in 4 nights, fourth game in 6 nights. And my goodness, no one in the league has been more profitable in that favorite role than the Orlando Magic.
Yeah, no, they have been fantastic here. And that'll do it here. It's a loaded slate of games here tonight. Obviously, keep an eye. Some good games here. But if you visit WagerTalk.com, visit Bryan Power's page. Also, R1L, Steve Merrill. Those guys are locked and loaded with their best bets. You can partner up with them, not just tonight, but of course, all week long. Big shout out to the Instagram chat room. You guys are a rock. Thank you very much. Deuce One, Nick, James, Victor. You guys rock. And don't forget, of course, those of you, Landau, Monkey Baseball. You got to love anybody that calls himself Mr. Monkey Baseball there. Steven, Frank, you guys rock. Don't forget, guys, hit that like button if you could for us. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're new to us, and make plans to come back and join us tomorrow. We do it all over again. Sweet 16 action off way. Major League Baseball starts. It's a loaded day tomorrow. Come back and join us. We'll see you then. Best of luck with all the plays tonight. We'll talk again soon.